environments. So that was mine. For Cindy, her, now I can't even think of the competitions you've been doing.
The what?
The competition that you've been doing.
Oh, the rally?
Yeah, the rally is kind of like your go-to confidence builder, working on it and doing that in multiple environments. So, I mean, there are definitely different strokes for different folks in that arena, but they're all teamwork based skills, and they're fun teamwork.
Right.
That's the important when you're looking at confidence building.
The other
so you agility, or you could do fly ball, or you could do, you know, any kind of sport out there, as long as you're doing it for fun to build your team. So I try to look at things that I don't necessarily need in the service dog world. Like, really, as a service dog, I rarely need Azul to put his paws up on anything. But it's a good cue to have, and we train it and play with it in parkour so that he can practice it there for the odd occasion that I actually need him to do it for work. So that's the other reason I went with parkour. It lets us practice those, you know, random things that you just don't use very often, but you want on cue. And so that's like the overarching theme for this week, is having some fun doing teamwork type stuff and understanding why or how that teamwork impacts the dog's confidence.
Can I just say
so that boils down to, I think we were talking at the same time.
Yeah, I just want to say that one of the things that's going to boost it's true of people and it's true of dogs. You want to catch the dog being successful as much as possible and breaking it down to the point where they're being successful, you know, at least 90% of the time, even if that means you go back to, you know, puppy training to get to that point where they're being successful 90% of the time, and make it fun. So like one of the things Nick and I love to do is we just love to play games. And I'm pretty sure Christy loves to play games with Hodor because she's had the same brainwashing that I have about playing games. It is the best way to have fun learning and have your dog have fun learning with you. And it's so if you can make it, you want to make it as for team building, bonding, and building confidence, the more success. Yeah, because if you think about when you go back to when you were in school, were you more confident when you walked home and you handed your mom or dad a report card that was straight A's, or when you handed them a report card with C's and D's? Probably the straight A's would give you more confident. Well, we want our dogs to be straight A students all the time, and we do that by breaking it down as simple as we can and giving them as many successes in as many different ways as we possibly can. Does that make sense? Is that what you were, that what you were trying to get at, Penny?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the overarching goal of this one. It ties into what we learned last week with the, you know, providing choices for them to make where they're successful. And this one is more, it's, instead of providing choices, which is awesome, this is now them following your lead. So it's the following your lead in a way that they are enjoying and wanting to follow your lead, which then makes it easier for them to follow your lead in the things that maybe aren't as exciting to dog, like walking at our slow pace and things like that, because we teach them to follow our lead in the games and sports and activities and fun stuff we do. Makes it easier. So it really transitions in the service dog world, because you don't want to have to cue your service dog to do each and every behavior you want them to do when you're out and about somewhere with them. You know, you might say a heel cue often, but you don't want to have to say a heel cue every time you move. You want the dog to kind of figure, all right, in this environment, you need to be in a heel or whatever your modified heel is, or, you know, whatever. There's certain things you don't want to have to say all day long. So when you're looking at the confidence of teamwork, you're choosing activities that will develop that drive in your dog to want to do it in the work environment as well.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what this whole week's lesson is. I know I summed it up really quickly. Christy, I know you read some of it. You may not have seen the later stuff. You didn't read any of it? I was just going to ask you about it.
I've been bombarded with appointments, multiple appointments daily, plus transport and no caregiver since last Monday because of COVID.
Oh.
So,
I know that bombarded feeling.
So I've just been exacerbating. So I just got it printed out today, so I'll have to try to catch up. And I'm
well, and that's okay, because I mean, I think we're all kind of in the same boat. And I was going to ask, since we have everybody here except for Jen and Lyra, do we want to consider canceling next week's post to give everybody, because we're like halfway through. It's a 6-week series of posts, and we've done week 3 is this week. Do we want to skip 1 week just to let everybody have that breather and make sure we're all on the same page?
I think that might be a good idea, Penny, but what we can do also is if anybody wants to chat next week, we can set this is
right. We can cover a review of all 3.
We can review it now, what we're doing with these weeks. Everybody can have a chance to go back, read it, implement it as best possible.
Yeah, because it's a bit overwhelming for me, and I have cognitive issues anyway. And then I've just on the go so much, and my whole month is booked.
So I won't post any new topic this coming up Saturday. And then we'll do more of a question and answer kind of thing next week for the Zoom.
So
which Lulu do these Zooms usually at 9 p.m. every Thursday night. However, we pushed this one back a little bit because we knew we had the service dog support Zoom at 8. So
I was confused. I didn't know what that was.
I told Cindy we were going to confuse people because we both accidentally posted Zoom links at the exact same time. And I'm like, oh man, we didn't know the other person was doing it. I knew it was going to confuse.
And it was
so that was our
bad.
bad.
It was for 2 different Zoom meetings. One was
right.
the tasks and one was this. And it's like, oh man. And the only person, and neither one of them were in the other group when we did it. Well,
is this one usually at 7 or 7:30?
It's usually at 7.
Usually at 7 your time. We had to bump
because
it
the task group was at because the task group was at 6 our time, 6 Pacific, 8 Central, and 10 Eastern.
9.
See, I don't know anything
9
about
Eastern. Anyways, because the task video, the task Zoom was an hour or before this Zoom. We moved this Zoom back a half an hour for that.
We know we always go long.
Because we know we go long, and that was only supposed to be a half an hour or an hour, and it was more than an hour as usual.
It was an hour and 15, so we kept it kind of short. So we do this.
When is that one
group? We do it on the 2nd Thursday of every month.
Oh,
so only once a month. And you're in the Plus our SD task group, I'm pretty sure. That's where the Zoom link is posted for that and the information. But it's always the 2nd Thursday of the month.
And don't worry, she confused me. She put
my time, so 6 o'clock your time.
She put the link up yesterday, and I was thinking it was for yesterday because we usually meet on Thursdays, and we have Penny and I have a class that meets every other Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, we
I
have
see-
too many.
If nothing else, I see Penny 3 times a week on Zoom, setting this stuff, or not setting.
At least
this stuff up,
twice a week,
at least twice a week. But
sometimes more than 4, but at least twice a week.
sometimes we have Zoom meetings by ourselves too. But the task group, like we were working on distance and momentum pulls and things of that nature, which is also confidence building. However, we don't necessarily want all our confidence building to be taking place in the form of tasks.
Right. I try to make confidence stuff as fun as possible. So
So
that was going to be a question to everybody, including Cindy. If you had to say, like, what is your one go-to game, sport, whatever activity that you do the most that's just fun? Like, you could actually use it for work-related stuff too, but what do you find most fun, the funnest way to do teamwork with your dog? So go ahead, Christy.
Oh, well, I like 2 things. I do the rally obedience also with Hodor. Well, not this year, but last year we were in advanced, and then games also,
Do
she's
you have a favorite?
but not lately. I've been bad.
no,
We all get that. Favorite game?
you've had increased challenges with your gaming.
Thank you.
We're going to put it in realistic terms. You've not been bad.
Okay.
You've had increased challenges in dealing with working your dog over the last year.
Yes, we have. And it's going to get better though.
I know it's going to get better. It's just you've had increased challenges and you're making it a huge effort. And in spite of all of your challenges,
The barking still doesn't work for me.
did you do the?
Do you have a favorite game?
No, never mind. We'll discuss it tomorrow.
She's a PDT also. She's a pro dog trainer through Absolute Dog.
Right.
Well, she's the one that got me going that way. So she's got more resources than I have because she's already a club member. And I still need to pay my dues for that. But nice. See, I still have barking issues. Poe had to get up for that little woof because Nick. So I'm going to just step up and then we'll let Lulu go. I have a couple of favorite things that I like to do. So if you notice when we're on Zoom calls, if you haven't noticed already, I'm pretty sure Christy knows all about DMT, which is distraction mark treat, which is a little bit different than look at that, because we're marking anytime the dog barks or interacts when it's, I don't want to say inappropriate or unnecessary, but when they're unsure of what's going on and maybe they need a little comfort or they, something's going on in the environment and it causes, maybe them to go into a hyper alert state or they're getting there. You say nice or nice. Can you do a Tom or Lauren nice, Christy? Nice.
Nice. Nice. No, not as good as they do.
I can't do it the same way they do it, but it's nice. It's enthusiastic, but it's calming at the same time. I better throw some more cookies because we're saying this. But
Yeah,
anytime
there's wondering where they are.
so that has done wonders for calming Nick down and that and maturing. And Poe likes it because she's just laying around being a Pyrenees and doing nothing and she gets free cookies essentially. So Poe has actually been trained that Nick goes woof. I say the N word and I mean the NICE. And then Poe comes out of wherever she's hiding from and starts action prompting for cookies if I haven't thrown them yet. That's number one, because it's made a huge difference. And I play this anywhere and everywhere that my dog could potentially.
And cookies are just their daily food.
Yes. But I think as our positive trainers, we kind of already know that we take their daily food allowance, and, you know, it may be something higher value or it may not, but cookies just means in the case of my dogs, it means kibble. Like, you can't see that. You want more? That's one of them. The other one that's my favorite one that has really helped Nick install his own dimmer switch is Play Q Play. And so he'll bring, when he wants to play, he'll bring me one of two squirrels, and we play a little bit of fetch with that. And then he has to, when he wants me to throw the squirrel, we do a little bit of Simon Says or Mom Says, and he's got to do whatever cues I give him before I'll throw the squirrel. And
I haven't done that.
If you've got a retrieve on your dog, I would do that with Hodor. I bet that would help with the barking.
Okay.
Because that will build up his confidence. And if he likes retrieving, that will,
Yeah, he does.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
but you can also do that with, okay, so I'm going to use a PDT term again. You can also, or an absolute dogs term again. You can also do it with a whip. And they call it that because when they're playing, they generally play with a lunge whip with a toy on it, which is the cheapest way to do it. Penny's got a whip that she plays with.
They
And
have another name for it though.
it's called
Because I call it the whip. You called it something else.
it's a flirt pole,
Right.
but it's a whip.
Call it something else out in
Hmm.
UK. They call it something else.
It's a
A
whip.
wanker.
Oh, no, that's wanker's different.
Oh,
Wanger
okay.
is different. Wanger is different.
Gotcha. Okay.
Do you want to
Wanger
explain do you want to explain the Wanger game?
That one's a good one.
Yeah, why don't you explain that one? That one's a good one. That really builds confidence too. And it usually gets a lot of chuckles with the name because it sounds funny, and I'm sure that's why they started calling it. But Wanger in British is also throwing, or because they have a Welly Wanger contest and they've got something else.
I have a nice big long one with a cushiony handle.
That's right. Now I remember what it is.
How can you forget the Wanger game? So
That's what the flirt pole game was. But yeah, because
no,
doesn't play
it's not
that
a
game.
flirt pole. I will grab a Wanger so everybody knows.
No, I know what it is, but
I
I
know
was
you
just
do, but
thinking that it was
the
a flirt
question is,
pole.
does Lulu know what a Wanger is?
Yeah, Lulu's probably totally lost. It's a
Yeah,
chuck,
I'm like
basically.
sitting here taking notes if that's okay.
You know,
I am.
the chuck it, you know, to be able to toss the ball. But, I mean, we all call it a bucket in the United States, but it's a winger to UP,
Oh.
or not
Winger.
UK.
So, and they come in various lengths. I don't know if they call them a chucket in the UK or not, but basically when you play the Wanger game, and I'm just
I
going
call
to
that
do
the
this.
ball thrower.
Yeah, it's a chucket or a ball launcher. So, okay, so you can see I have puppies. And if I move the Wanger, I can move the puppy, and then I can drop some food on the puppy. So instead of using the Wanger as something to reinforce your dog going away from you, you're using it to reinforce your dog to come to you. So
Yeah,
That's
and you
actually-
can be walking around with it too, and
or you
doing
can be
different-
standing or sitting in a chair or however you need to. I know Ashlyn has one that's adjustable length.
Yeah, she's
I don't
got
know
a
where
nice one.
She's got a really nice one. I don't know where she got it. Apparently,
It's
whatever.
telescoping, so it can go down, you know, so it's only yay long, but then she can make it go 2 foot tall too.
Mhm. And I have one more game besides I have the toy switch game, which is also, I've used that a lot for Nick, thinking and arousal up, arousal down. And I get two familiar or identical toys. You start with two that are almost identical and you play with one toy, and then you ask them to switch to the other toy, and the toy you were playing with becomes it basically freezes, you're not playing with it, and you make the other one more animated. And then you go back and forth between the two of them. And that
Helps
really
teach
helps.
them to stop on cue.
It really helps if it's them to think and arousal. So if they're like if they have a really hard time thinking when they're excited, that helps them learn to bring that excitement down and under control. And the nice thing is you're not sitting there nagging your dog, you're encouraging them to have fun. And it builds their confidence because they're like, oh, I'm not getting in trouble for being excited anymore because I can think.
There are definitely a ton of fun teamwork games. I mean, we could probably talk about different ones all night long.
Did Lulu
Lulu,
have
do
any?
you have a favorite game for probably not your puppy yet, but for your older dog?
Well, she doesn't really play much. Like she likes to
Or
tear
a
up her stuffed
teamwork
animals.
tar-
Oh,
or a teamwork activity that you do together?
when I was first starting to train her for retrieving items, I bought this duck retrieval training decoy thing. It's like
Is it
an
one-
orange thing and it floats.
Mhm.
And I would just toss it and she'd bring it back. And I'd like put little treats sticking out in the end so she'd go get it.
Oh, nice.
Nice, good
Mhm.
idea.
That was
Retrieve.
the only way she'd pick up stuff.
Mhm.
They actually have some toys where you can put food in them and then throw, and then they can retrieve them and then get the food out of them, or
Mhm.
even open them. Tug Enough has one. I have it for Luna,
Is
and
that
then
what-
they could. It has the Velcro, and it even they could push with their nose and open it themselves, like Hodor can if they're
Is
a
that like
bigger.
the shells, or is that something
Yeah,
different?
that shell one.
Yeah,
Look
'cause
up Enough.
they're expensive, but
Yeah, but
I've been thinking about the shells because the shells they can be a shell, or you can fold them in half and do as a shell, or you can open them up and have them like a frisbee. But
I never used a food toy like that with my retrieves. My fear would be that the dog is then self-rewarding by getting the food out themselves. So, I mean, I do use food toys, but when I give him a food toy, I just give it to him and then he has to work to get it out versus including it on my retrieves. I use toys on retrieves, but then the value is bringing that toy back to me so that we can play with that toy.
yeah,
But just, I mean, I'm sure it works for some people to use food toys with that. It's just something that I've never thought to do.
I actually start retrieve training by shaping them, touching. Usually I start, because I have them, I use dumbbells, but you could use any kind of like a spoon or, whatever that you're going to have them retrieve. And I usually start with that and having them touch it and move to mouthing it, then move to picking it up, and then increase the distance on it. But
You want to know my favorite cheap thing to start with?
what?
A roll of like duct tape or shipping tape, because they can fit their mouth in it. It's kind of the same feel as a dumbbell, only it's a heck of a lot cheaper, and most people have one in their house. And it can, withstand a lot of damage if they're
Yeah,
don't have that soft mouth yet. So they're biting down hard. It's not gonna break. It's not gonna
amazingly, I'm
holes
shocked.
in it, but
I'm actually really shocked. Poe has a very soft mouth. You wouldn't think a dog as huge as a Great Pyrenees with breeding that's essentially, let's eat the bear. of having a soft mouth, but she does. When she's done retrievals, it's been a very soft mouth. And when she takes cookies, when she's not overly excited or being pushy.
Pre-programmed with a soft mouth.
Well, so did Nick.
I say that funny because Huskies are, they're known for chewing, and really it's when they're bored that they get extra chewing. But so they're known for that chewing on almost anything, and Azul has never chewed. He's always had that soft mouth, so I've taken advantage of it. So Christy, what I said,
I'm typing it.
instead of the dumbbell, I use a duct tape roll, or shipping tape, duct tape roll in the early retrieves, because I can roll it across the floor. It's cheaper than a dumbbell. If you have dumbbells, great, but if you don't have them, almost everybody has a roll of duct tape in their house.
And dumbbells can be
Or
difficult
shipping
to
tape, and it's the right size for my larger breeds, that it's just easy for them to learn to retrieve with it.
And dumbbells can be difficult.
I'm confused. Like, what are you saying to use instead of a dumbbell?
A roll
I
of duct
use a
tape.
roll of tape, so it's big and round like that, a roll of duct tape.
Oh, a roll of duct, like the
Yeah,
roll.
because it's easy to pick up, it's lightweight, and then, they can fit their mouth around it and kind of inside it like you would almost a dumbbell, where it's easy for them. So it's one of those easy, it's a quick, cheap something that everybody has in their house typically, that is not something that's like, so what I tell people to avoid when they're teaching retrieve, first of all, you usually start with toys.
Mhm.
Then second, you're going to people items, but people want to jump right to, say, shoes or socks or something that the dog already maybe loves and loves a little too much. And then that dog is likely to chew on that item, because we're people, we're lazy. We all have shoes and socks in multiple rooms of our house. So using something like duct tape is not something that's generally just found anywhere, unless you're playing with it with the dog.
And the same goes for different types of kitchen spoons, whether it's metal, plastic, wood. Christy, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna make a suggestion. I need to get more, but I know I probably wouldn't want him to use my good duct tape because he bites too hard, but they have dollar store duct tape.
That would work. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And I've also found out, like, even the ones that really bite hard don't usually go through more than a layer or two of tape, so it's easy to pull it off. So I will leave that on there until they start to get the hang of it. It's one of those things that, like, they don't mind the duct tape roll being in their mouth, but they don't really like the stickiness touching their teeth. So they will purposely try to avoid biting it really hard after they've bitten it a few times. So you might end up with some teeth marks in the outside roll, but if you're noticing that they're starting to pick it up more gently, you can unpeel a couple of layers down to where there aren't fresh teeth marks and see if they can do it without putting the teeth marks in that time. So it's a good judge for that.
What's a good way of teaching them? Because my brain's gone stupid right now, and I don't remember how to teach it, but he's biting and retrieving stuff too hard, like, or scratching it like I was trying.
He's too rough.
He's
So
too rough.
That's where the duct tape would come in, because the duct tape roll, if he goes to bite it too hard, his teeth are going to go into the duct tape and he's not going to like that sticky feeling. So I was just saying. And then I would not use your good duct tape rolls. I would go get your roll, go to Dollar Tree, $1.25 tree or whatever it is now. And go get maybe a couple rolls from there and use that instead, and have them be dedicated. And you can label them Hodor or whatever, have them dedicated to him. So if he does chew them up, it's, it's not like it's not the end of the world. You could alternately, I would also check their spoons at, their kitchen utensils and their dog toys, because they could potentially have a chuck it there. The other place that sometimes has some really good dog toys for cheap is, oh, what is that store? We used to call it Emotional Outlet, Grocery Outlet. It has a dog toy section, and they sometimes have, but you may or may not have one close to you. There is not here. I know she's got one in the vicinity. She's got a couple in the vicinity that she travels on a regular basis.
The other thing I use for like us when the dog doesn't have the soft mouth one, this is kind of an odd shape. But so this is a longer one. Normally I would go with, like, if you buy a huge box of Rubbermaid containers, storage containers, they will have the really small ones that are meant for softs and not really used for much. So we always end up with extras in the house because we just don't tend to use that small size. So I'll start there, because if they ruin it, it's not the end of the world. You know, the lids snap on pretty good. You can put a couple of treats inside. And so they get to where, like, they don't earn the treat until they hand it to you. And you take the lid off, give them a treat, and I'll work with that for a little while. Once they have that down and they can pick it up without ruining that container, I can switch over to Easter eggs, because Easter eggs, of course, are a lot more fragile, but they're roughly the same size. And if they crack the egg open, you kind of have to have a solid leave it at that point. But if they crack that plastic Easter egg open, they get told not to leave it, or to leave it and not eat it. So they have to be able to pick it up and hand it to you successfully in order to earn the treat. And it helps teach that gentle mouth.
And teaching these things, even though they're task related, they're still confidence building.
Mm-hmm.
You are talking the plastic Easter eggs, right?
Right.
You
Plastic
could try
Easter eggs.
hard-boiled Easter eggs, but I can't guarantee you he's not going to eat them if he's retrieving them.
No,
Right.
you don't.
We do eventually graduate to raw eggs.
Yeah.
We always start outside when we actually start playing with raw eggs.
I'm about 95% confident, even though I've never asked him to get one. I'm pretty sure Nick would be able to pick up a raw egg without issue.
Hodar's a counter surfer, and I left a couple hard-boiled eggs out on the counter, and he snagged them.
Azul, because his birthday is very close to Easter, and we usually have a birthday party for his friends, we play games with raw eggs, like see which dog can carry the egg the furthest.
Now, is that a handler game or a dog game?
The dog, well, we kind of do it both ways. But so we do it with the dogs first. And for Azul's first birthday, he's got a really good doggy friend, Maverick, that's actually going to be here all weekend. But he met Maverick like 2 days before his first birthday. And so he was so thrown off by Maverick coming to his birthday party and so excited that even though he had an awesome retrieve at that age, he picked up his egg and carried it less than like 2 inches before dropping it because he wanted to watch Maverick. Well, then this past year, he didn't have anybody new like that to distract him. Maverick was still there, but Maverick's not the distraction he was then. And Azul picked it up, and we must have walked a whole 100 feet and then turned around and walked back to the starting line again without ever dropping it. And that's how much progress he's made over the year. And he was kind of shocked. Like, I had to pick the egg up and throw it down on the ground to make it crack so that he would eat it. Because all the other dogs, once they actually crack the raw egg, that we allow him to eat it, but he wouldn't bite into his to crack it. I had to break it for him.
You know, it's
Now, wrong eggs, but I'll wait for permission.
Did you do all the dogs at once or one at a time?
We did them all at once. We had a starting line and just walked across the field to see how far we got. And we had one other dog, which is not a service dog, but she actually made it more than 50 feet too. So, but she's really, her person has been working on retrieve with her because she has some resource guarding tendencies and would get any resource and run as one of her favorite games. So they really worked on trade and the long distance and no, don't run away from me, bring that to me. So her person just kind of backed up across the field, like, come on, bring it to me. And she kept going, you know. So they've made a lot of progress too, but it was a whole different reason as to why and what the motivation was there.
Well, you know, that's a skill that I never hear people talking about teaching with resource guarding, and it's such a good one to teach. You know, I hear about trading once they have an object, you know, of desire that they're not supposed to have.
Right.
But I don't hear,
That
you
too.
never hear about actually teaching a basic retrieve. You know, it could be with a dumbbell for something. Here's a dumbbell. It's boring to me. Oh, you're going to give me steak?
Well, and that was the whole reason behind it, was because she liked to grab the item and run. And we had to get her to see that the item was worth more if she brought it to her person instead of running. So it involved high value treats for a little while, and then it involved, she loves ball. So, you got the ball. If you want me to throw it, you got to bring it over here. And, now, every now and then she'll pick up something she's not supposed to have, like a sock, and take off running. And her person can simply say, oh, would you like to play? Bring it here. And then when she brings it to her, she can trade it for a ball or a tug toy or something else.
See,
so kind of a mix between the two, retrieve and the trade.
Oh,
go ahead, Christy.
Oh, before I forget, because my brain is so scatterbrained. Just when I was printing out stuff, I had my back little patio door open where Hodar was going potty and stuff. And my new neighbors, I don't know if it was the dad or like a teenage boy, had like a white towel, like a white beach towel, probably was inside or backwards, or what do you call it? I don't know the wording, but the wrong way. And so it was all white and it looked like a ghost, you know, he was pretending to be a ghost. And oh my God, Hodar saw that and flipped out like it was a fire, you know, like how he does with fireworks. He was flipping out and ran in the house and was barking and coming. He was just, so that's something else I have to work on. I guess I got to put a towel over my head and something.
This white floating object, because he probably didn't see the person. He probably just saw the object floating.
Yeah, so something else to think about. You know, we don't think about throwing a towel over our head.
That goes back to DMT everything and reward nothing. And Lulu, I don't know if you're familiar with this. I think we've talked a little bit about DMT, and DMT versus look at that is DMT is if they're distracted by anything, because it could be a sight, it could be a sound, it could be a scent, it could be something they're touching, it could be an emotion, it could be anything. So whatever they're distracted by, you're marking and you're rewarding. And you cannot overdo it. And as you do this and you do it consistently, it brings that excitement level down. So I've done it with Poe after she got attacked. And she takes advantage of Nick's DMT because she gets rewarded at the same time. And that is a huge confidence builder. And so is rewarding nothing. Nick, who used to bark at everything, is now laying on the floor doing nothing. And if Poe wasn't up action prompting, trying to demand cookies, I would probably throw some cookies that direction. But Poe is not getting cookies because
she's
Poe is
begging for cookies.
Yes, can you see?
Hi, Poe.
I don't want to be on. I don't want to be on TV. Am I talking about you? Yeah, you've got a big head.
What a pretty girl.
You've got a big head. Yes. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Go over there because I'm not going to fight with you about getting on the bed. But it's, you know, I would just DMT the heck out of everything you can with Hodor. And I know it's not 100%
Takes
possible.
time.
Yeah, and you can walk around with a towel over your head if you want, but it's going to be different with you walking around with a towel over your head than with, you know, a stranger versus with your son versus with your caregiver. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to do that with those people as well. But if it was,
Might be more of, you know, sure, it was something unusual, a towel over his head, but it may have been, you know, if he didn't see the person and he just saw the light moving, even just throwing like a plastic bag or a towel up around in the air and playing DMT with that, you know, the object moving, and especially in the dark, is probably, you know, it was too many things all at once that he just didn't know what to do. So
we
like
understand.
store a plastic bag and kind of wave it around and tree and toss it in the air and tree. And if it goes up and sniffs it, tree and toss it again. And
Yeah, exactly.
desensitized to that weird thing that suddenly appears and moves.
And remember, you cannot overdo DMT. It builds confidence, it builds calmness, it just makes them interact with the world. And after Poe was attacked by and bitten by the other dog, I have done a ton of DMT with her on walks, just because she was, you know, she was super, super solid. I mean, you could not ask for a better service dog personality, other than she was not quite as biddable as I would have liked. But when you got her dialed in and thinking about what you wanted her to do, she wants to play the game. So she got very scared after she got bitten. She did everything she was supposed to do, but DMT made a huge difference. And I know you have issues because Hodor doesn't go everywhere with you and mostly works at home. But while you're at home, the more you can DMT and do separation anxiety training, or I think the more success.
Yeah. Well, if I can get him, he's only barky at home. When I took him out, he never barked when I was out.
But that's because he was with you, and it's a different because.
Yeah, he knew the difference when he was working.
Yeah, they know.
They tend to be more protective at home too. And even if they're not protecting you, they're protecting the house. So if they think they hear a person moving, you know, a car door at a distance,
a ghost,
or they're more likely to bark for those types of things at home, where they expect those things when you're out and about, because there's cars everywhere if you're outside, you know,
he's happy
being there.
He loves being out.
Well, the other thing, Christy, is Crazy Lady game.
Yeah,
would be really good for him. Crazy Lady game is basically you walk around with your dog and you're going, hi, hello, and acting, you know, like a fool, basically. Hence Crazy Lady. And the person who I heard it, I guess Lauren probably came up with that, because otherwise it would be Crazy Tom or something.
Right.
But so Christy and I are really big into absolute dogs. And Penny likes them, but doesn't have the money to be as
in the Crazy Lady game. I've just never called it that, but it fits because
it's just,
I tell my clients, don't worry about looking like a crazy old lady.
I get
what do you care about whether that person thinks bad of you or whether your dog is listening to you. In that moment, your dog is more important. So forget about the world. Be crazy.
And I always talk to my dog in public. Actually, I talk to them a lot at home too, but I talk to them a lot because and tell them what's going on. And I get looks in public like, what the? And it's like, well, you know, some of it's cute, like, you know, hey, there's a guy coming up, and I won't necessarily say that, but it becomes like when you're nodding to somebody or you're saying hi to somebody, that's a cue to be calm and relaxed, and you're not going to lunge at them. You're not going to bark at them. And that's where
sometimes it's cute for the people around you too.
Yeah, it's like
people I'm gonna step and say hi to them today. We need to keep walking. We got work to do.
Yeah, exactly. And
they don't bug you.
The other thing, Christy, is with his barking when you're coming and going, and vary the routine, gated society, gated community. Like with Nick, I've had some issues with him. He gets nervous when I leave, but he's fine if he just goes to sleep if he's in his crate. He won't chew on anything. So I know there's some anxiety, and I don't leave him that often because I don't have to. But when I take Poe out to go do her business, he's got to go in one of his crates. He's either in the crate in my bedroom, or he's in the crate out here. And I don't necessarily, sometimes I let him out immediately. Sometimes I don't. If Poe goes out before him, he gets out immediately to go do his business. But it varies the routine for him, so that when I walk back through the front door, that's not an automatic, you're going to get a greeting. And sometimes he just gets stuffed in there because he needs to be in there out of my hair, even though now it's much less of an issue with him, trying to help sort the laundry, trying to unmake the bed. I put that on cue, so he strips my bed for me. So, but vary the routine as much as you're physically able, and that will help him as well. That's a confidence builder, because it's like, oh, mom, it's presence doesn't mean access.
Yeah.
Well, and I know he gets overly excited when you come home from something, and you don't want to leave him crated the whole time while you're gone, because sometimes you're gone.
I did the gate now.
Right. But the other thing that you can do is, like, say, you're going to be in your kitchen for a little while. If your door is by your kitchen, then go ahead and just crate him, walk outside, be outside for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long you think it's needed. And then walk in like you just came home after being gone for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to make him all excited and happy to see you. So if you typically,
you mean like
probably have a routine,
right? So like if you hang your
grab a
kids,
bag, you might grab, whatever you're taking with you. So put him in his crate. Do that same thing of getting ready to walk out like you're going to be gone for hours. Just be gone 2 or 3 minutes and walk back in and do your same routine. Like, I know you said you come in and sit stuff down and wash your hands before you do anything. So do all that when you come back in. So you're gone short periods of time, but it's teaching him that you're not going to rush to him. So like you did with the gate, but you can move it back a little bit further to his crate for those short periods. And that will help you to phase out the gate if you don't want to use it.
I've been trying the crate, because he's barky you'll be mad at me, Cindy, because I backtracked and I've been bowl feeding him in the evening. Okay. And because, I
if
just
you can't train all their food in one sitting, throughout the course of the day.
I do have some food prepared, and I'll scatter feed every now and then, but I've not been doing the training or the games. I just need to do it. And I have done some, but not consistent.
If you can add the confidence building games.
I did make some little containers up, and I set them in the different rooms. And so I was doing the distract him or treat one day, but we finished the bowl, and then he was still barking because he wanted more. But
Azul gets a bowl of kibble every night, and he doesn't always eat it because he gets food throughout the day. But towards the end of the evening, a bowl goes down, and that way he can make sure he eats what he wants, because he gets what he wants. I don't have a finite amount of that I make him eat. But so that way I can judge what he wants and what he's working for, because when he's not hungry anymore, he'll just stop eating and walk away from it, and then I can pick it up and put it away. But every night he gets a bowl of food sat down.
And Nick and Poe get something every night. They get licky mats with it's dog food on its paste, or it's basically a paste dog food, the dehydrated that's turned into a paste and frozen, and they get that every night. And I think we're going back to squirrels, at least temporarily. We're stuffing squirrels again, and they were Kongs, but I replaced all the Kongs with squirrels because they wore the Kongs out.
Mhm.
So that will give them something to, Nick doesn't really like those that much because he doesn't like that little, they've got like these little pointy things that are rubber and soft, but he doesn't like the sensation of that on his tongue. And Poe doesn't care. She just wants the kibble. But
Yeah,
Nick,
Bill doesn't like those pointy things either.
but Nick also doesn't like the kibble. He's not a huge fan of it. So he's not going to go flying after the kibble, whereas Poe is underneath her bed right now trying to get kibble out.
Have you done the toddlers?
We're getting new toys. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
That is Poe. She has crawled under my bed fully, completely, and I couldn't find her before, and she was under my bed. Yes, Christy?
Oh, I was just gonna finish saying too, but he's barky now. He used to not be so barky, but now he's gotten barkier. And he used to not bark when I did his dinner or food or whatever, but
Well, there's
now,
two factors going on here, Christy. He's older, and you've had more issues with your health in the last year. So it's normal for him to backslide some or to see what works. And if he's thinking the barking's working,
like,
And he's got some other need that's not being met.
mhm.
I'm preparing it. It's like excitement barking, I guess. I don't know, but
Mhm.
But that comes from having, he doesn't have self-control for some reason because something's not being met. And it's not saying that you're a bad person or a bad, it's not saying that you're neglecting your dog or anything. He's trying to communicate with you what he needs. The problem is, we speak, like this much dog, and they may speak this much English or understand this much English or this much English, like in Nick's case, and I think in Poe's case. But depending on the dog, like Poe, her version of I want something is she comes and stares at me. And sometimes if they want to go out, they will go to the door and they will sit by the door. And if I'm ignoring them, they'll bark at me. But it's like one bark and I start to take the action so that they know that they're going to get that need met. And what may have happened with Hodor is when you've had bad flares, he's trying to get that need met and he's not able to get through to you as quickly as you would like.
It might simply be that he has the need to connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
even if you're not doing training, just sitting there and hand feeding him would give him that connection that he's after. If that's what it is, if he's, if he's excited and he wants to be around you.
yeah. What it is I'm trying, he's fine. He's not barking when I'm putting the food in the bowls, but when I have him go to place, that's when he starts barking when I put the food on the counter to add the supplements.
Okay, so what I did with my dog,
I put him in the crate and then he's barking there too.
so I usually stop when I have a dog that's doing action prompting like that, because that's what he's doing. There's various levels of action prompting. I stop if I know that what my activity is causing them to bark.
Yeah.
I stop what I stop. It's the same thing as crossing your arms and turning your back when they jump on you. I don't like that behavior.
Right.
It's negative punishment. You're taking something away. You want me to finish your dinner? You stop barking at me.
Yeah, I've tried that and then I go back to it and then he starts again.
It's a process.
Okay.
It's a long process.
And then last night I had some I don't know if they're bad or good kind of treats for him or anything, but when my girlfriend came to visit me last week, she brought me this huge bag of different dog treats and stuff. But I thought I'd have him in a down and then give him a treat every time he was quiet, he'd bark. And then if he was quiet, give him a treat. I was trying it that way some.
What about if at mealtime or just before the mealtime, can you prepare his dinner and walk away and leave it on the counter? And, you know, even if you're doing something else that's relating to him or not relating to him, so that it becomes a delayed type of dinner. He knows he's not getting the dinner until he's doing the behaviors you want. So even if it means you have to prepare it a half an hour before you want him to eat or whatever, and then it's just sitting there, and the counter might not be enough. If he's a counter server, you might have to like prepare it and put it up in the cupboard,
Or stick it in the
prepare
fridge.
it and, you know, have a container with a lid or something and put it up on top of the refrigerator, whatever you have to do to separate the act of preparing it with the act of getting to eat it. You want a spacer there.
So this comes into play. This is that's something I do with my dogs. So I have 8 licky, actually, I think I have 9 licky mats. I need to order another one. So I have an even number, but I take all the licky mats and I make the food I make 4 for Poe and 4 for Nick of the licky mats, and that's their supper. Well, they always come in the kitchen when I'm making the licky mats, but they never get the licky mat when I'm making the licky mat, because those have to go, the next step of the licky mat is to go into the freezer to freeze.
Right.
So they get the
Mhm.
licky mat. And, you know, doing something with that's where Penny's talking about making the dinner and then putting it, like putting it in the refrigerator, putting it in a cupboard, or putting it on top of the
Even in the
refrigerator,
microwave.
putting it in the microwave, putting
Oh.
it somewhere where he can't get it, locking it in a crate, where not his crate, somebody else's crate.
Or put the food in his crate and lock the door so he can't get into the crate until
Yeah.
he's offering the behavior you want.
Although he might really start having an extinction burst if you put the food in the crate, he might just go bonkers.
Right.
Is the fear of that.
So you realize the best way to get that food in the crate is to stop going bonkers.
Yeah, well, my goal is to get back to not doing it in the bowl and to ditch the frickin' bowl.
Well, you don't have
Right.
to, you know, unless, I guess, are you able to put the supplements in topplers or,
Well, I used to do it on the licky mat, but right now I'm giving Luna some bone broth and some of my collagen powder.
can you mix that with something you can put on the licky mat?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
You could even
What
mix it in with the kibble. It'll
You
make
could
it
mix it
Yeah.
with kibble.
but yeah, mix it in with kibble and let it sit, which since you're doing that delayed time, you can prepare it earlier and let it sit in the bowl.
And that will make it even better.
Spread it on the licky mat after
Well-
it's there.
So something I have done at times, if like when I was making a lot of chicken for Nick, I would take the water from,
Topplers.
pardon
I
me?
can the topplers or the licky mat probably.
Right, so when I was making,
Mhm.
chicken frequently for Nick, because it was chicken, that was what it was taking to get him to take food in class so that I could reward him with something that wasn't hyping him up. I would take the liquid because I would steam the chicken in the pressure cooker, and I would take the liquid that was at the bottom of the pressure cooker and I'd use that to make the Honest Kitchen. And then I spread that on the licky mat. So if you have something like kibble, or if you're using Honest Kitchen, or if you're using, if you want to give them a little treat and give them some Spam at night, or something or tuna or something you could mix it with, you could do that.
Oh, I've never done Spam. Is that something they can have?
Yeah, they can have
They
Spam.
can have it, but it's high in salt, so not too much.
Not too much.
often.
I generally reserve Spam for things like grooming, when I'm trying to get like for handling stuff where you want them to have a really positive association, like with the Dremel, which we still, Nick doesn't even like the sight of the Dremel. And Poe, I've given up trying to do her nails because every time I try and do her nails, we have issues and I end up getting her hair in the Dremel, and you know, but you know, while you're, if he's barking and you know what he's if he's action prompting barking, and it's not because he has a need like to go outside and go potty, I would still make him stop barking more than once or twice for going out and going potty. You know, he has to sit and be quiet at the door before you let him out. That's kind of been one of my rules.
Hodor? No, Hodor doesn't. He rings the potty bell.
Okay, but if he's action prompting for anything, unless it's nice, there's kids outside screaming. Unless it's something, you know, like if you knew he had a potty emergency and he had to get out, you know, there's exceptions. But if it's not going to be an emergency, leakage emergency,
Yeah.
remove whatever he's demanding. If it's patting, if it's, you know, I want my dinner now because you're making it, or I want my dinner because you're making yours. That will stop a lot of the barking.
Okay.
And it will help a lot build his confidence, because he'll learn, oh, yeah, I have to, you know, I kind of have to do this. I may not like it, but it sure pays off when I do it.
Yeah.
And that will build his confidence in being quiet.
I just want less appointments so I can work on training him.
Okay, so who here
I know that
saw
feeling.
the video of Kate Middleton with, I forgot which little prince it was, George, I think it was, and he was acting up. It took place at the Jubilee, and he's acting up and he thumbed his nose at his mother more than one time at the Queen's Jubilee. Well, having a Canadian mother who's still technically a British subject, she told me when she was a kid, when she lived in Canada, since they were in the war, a year after she was born, when she was growing up and singing jump rope songs, they were all about doing things like thumbing their nose at the German soldiers, which is kind of like Hitler, or not Hitler, when Churchill did this for victory. That's not what this means. This is not peace. This is not victory. This is up your bum.
Oh,
So,
this is
peace. This is peace. This is up your bum. We
oh,
don't use this in the States, but it's pretty darn rude to do this. And it's
Yeah.
probably appropriate to do this at Hitler, but Churchill didn't know that this was up your bum when he did it. So I'm actually surprised that the little prince knew what this was to do, and to do that at his mom. I mean, that was just, but you know, when Hodor's demand barking, that's this and this and this. And none of those are, except you wouldn't tolerate it from your kids. You don't have to spank or punish or do anything to get rid of it. Well, but I guess technically you're
You got to be careful not to reward it.
you don't want to reward it at all, because it kind of got to the point where, you know, Kate handled the situation as best she could. I'm hoping somebody was close enough to flag to get Nanny down there to remove him from the situation, because he shouldn't have been, you know, I understand there was very little she could do, because, you know, she's a future queen. And she had to be there and as an adult and behaving, and she was doing her best, but you know, she has a nanny, at least one, and somebody should have been stepping in to do a management technique with the little prince at that point. I'm surprised that video is still on the internet, because the royal family is pretty good about getting inappropriate things removed.
Right.
oh, I wanted to just, I know it's more of a medical alert. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but we're just general chit chatting, so we
Yeah.
don't
Do you
care.
want me to stop the recording or keep it going?
I don't care.
Okay. Go ahead, Christy.
Monday, I was very